Loki, ladies and gentlemen. Loki, season 2, episode 6, season finale. Glorious Purpose wasn't that the name of the first episode in season 1? So what is this like because the episode is based on time travel, did they honestly just rename the season finale the exact same name of the first episode of season 1 because of what happened? Was no one like, I feel like somebody in Marvel was just like, hey, I got a name. How about we call it Glorious Purpose? And they forgot that they already named it Glorious Purpose? Or should it have been called like more glorious or purpose? But I don't know. The title confused the hell out of me, because when I saw the title, I thought I clicked on the wrong episode. But we're back with Glorious Purpose. I've never seen a TV show that had the exact same name twice. So it's your boy Icon with a Marvel TV review for you. And ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of Loki season 2. So in the last episode, we found out, well, before we get started, as always, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe to my channel, because we're at 493 subscribers, so 7 more to go to hit the 500 mark. I love you all. So in this particular episode, the episode starts where Loki controlled his time slipping, and he took himself back to, I guess, episode 5, where they were trying to get Kang, they were trying to get him to put the hazmat suit on so he can go out into the temporal loom area, and he can place the device in the temporal room to stop the branches from overspanning and for the loom exploding. So that didn't work. So but because Loki can time slip, it's not a time travel situation where he can go back in time and then he sees that version of himself. There's 2 versions of him, the one that just showed up and the one that was already there. It's not a situation of that. He can actually put himself into the body of the version of him that existed during that time period, and he can take over that version of him and live out that whole version of his situation. So that's a pretty interesting dynamic. So he does that. He goes back to the episode where, like I said, where they were trying to like stop the loom from destroying, and then he's trying to figure out how to stop the loom. So he's trying to get Kang to go down there. He's like, well, you go down there. He was like, you put the machine in place, and then he was like, maybe you could hurry up this time, and he was like, don't put the device down on the floor. And he was trying to come up with all these things, but every single time he tried to fix it, Kang kept going out there and he kept like unraveling and he kept disappearing. So then Loki was just like, okay, well, if he's going out there and if he keeps disappearing, maybe the trick is we have to get him to do it faster. So Loki keeps rewinding time. He keeps going back to that same spot over and over again, trying to figure out how to get Kang to get out there quicker. All the stuff that he tries fails, and they can't get Kang out there fast enough. So then Loki said, maybe it's not a question of getting him out there faster. He said, maybe I got to get him in there earlier. So he goes further back in time to the point where when they first brought Kang to the TVA in episode 4. So now he's in episode 4, and he's trying to get Kang to go out there, because he was just like, as soon as they brought him to the TVA, he was just like, hey, come downstairs, put this suit on and go out there. He was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm not going out there. He said, don't worry. He's like, you volunteered for this, like, because he did volunteer for it eventually, but he kept putting him out there. Kang kept disappearing. It wasn't working. And then Loki kept going back and back and back and kept trying. It wasn't working. There was even a moment where, because I know that like in one of the episodes, I believe it was episode 4, where Miss Minutes and Renslayer, they were talking to Kang, and they were trying to, like, I forgot what they were doing. They were trying to intimidate him, play good cop, bad cop. And then there was a moment where Loki busted in, and he was like, listen, Miss Minutes, I know you're mad at us all. I know you hate us and you hate our guts, but we're going to need your help if we're going to save the temporal loom. And everybody in the room looked at him like he was crazy, because at that point, I don't think, because see, that was the point where Miss Minutes and Renslayer killed all those TVA people. So they were surprised, because they were like, how did Loki know that we were here? But he knows that because he already relived that moment, because he's going back in time. So he keeps going back in time. He's trying to get him to go out there. It's not working. Going earlier is not working. And it reminded me of The Flash, like season 5 of The Flash, when his daughter Nora came into play. There was an episode where Cicada had killed one of the Team Flash characters, and then Nora went back in time to try to save them. And every single time Nora went back in time to try to save that one person, she altered time to a point where someone else ended up dying instead. And she kept going back in time, trying to fix it. And then one episode Iris died, one episode like Cecile died, and then like, Caitlin died, like different people kept dying. Like Nora did it so much that when she finally figured it out, and then the Flash came back, and then she told the Flash what happened, he was like, damn, girl, you did it 50 times. He said, you did it 52 times. He's like, you done busted up the space-time continuum. Loki broke that record, because Nora went back 52 times. Loki done did this shit like, Loki done did centuries of going back in time. Because there was a moment where he decided, because Loki's whole thing was, he can't figure out how to get this guy into the temporal loom zone quick enough. So he was like, well, maybe if I learn about astrophysics and time, nuclear physicists and all this other crap, he said, if I learn about this stuff, maybe I can learn how to prevent it and how to get us out there quicker to save more time. So he asked Ouroboros, he asked Casey, and he asked Kang. He was like, teach me everything you know about astrodynamics and time travel. And then they were just like, but that'll take centuries. So he was like, well, I guess that's what it'll take. So he kept going back in time for them to teach him everything that they know, which took centuries. Like, it legitimately said centuries later. And I said, holy shit, this guy's crazy. So now he knows all the knowledge that they know. He doesn't have to go to them for advice. He doesn't have to check their work. He knows that the work is perfect because he's done the calculations himself, because he just spent centuries going back in time learning all of this information, which is crazy. So now that he knows all this information and he has all the technical knowledge at his disposal, they put Kang, and that was another thing. I'm like, if you know all this information, if you have all the knowledge of the temporal zone and astrophysicism and like all this nuclear mumbo jumbo, if you have all this knowledge, why are you not going out there in the temporal loop? Why do you keep sending Kang? So he sends Kang in there one more time, and then this time they get him out there early enough to where they didn't need to prep him. He told him, he was just like, look, just don't put the shit down on the floor because it's going to fall off, which I assume of all the times that it took for him to try to get Kang to put that machine in its place, there were moments where he placed it down on the floor and then it blew off and then they had to reset the whole thing all over again. So everything went according to plan this time. Kang goes out there, he pushes through, he puts the machine in its place. He actually turned the machine on this time. It only took centuries in order for it to happen. And then after that happened, the machine worked. It started siphoning all the temporal energy, and it looked like they saved the looms and they kept everything from imploding. So now everybody's celebrating a job well done. Loki's, he's clapping up Kang. He's just like, oh, you did a damn thing. He was like, you saved it, you did it, you saved us all. And then Ouroboros was just like, no, he was just like, oh, the readings are off. And then he was like, that can't be. He's like, I spent centuries learning this bullshit. He was like, the readings were perfect. But then come to find out, and then that's when Kang told him the energy that the loom puts out is infinite. And he said that the machine that they use to siphon the energy, it can't compensate for infinity. So there's no way for them to stop it, and the energy is going to always explode. So when that happened, Loki felt bad, like he got upset, and then it exploded, like the loom but before the loom exploded, he basically like he was just like, fuck it. He's like, if this is what we're doing, he said there has to be a way to stop this, so I'm going to go further back in time. So he goes further back into time. He goes to because he got to the point where he realized, if this is what's going to happen, we can't save it. And if the energy is infinite, the only person that's going to have the answers to solve this whole thing is going to be Kang himself, the one that exists at the end of time. So he went back to the moment where both he and Sylvie were there at the season 1 finale, when they were there with Kang and Sylvie was trying to kill him. So now he's trying to stop Sylvie from killing him because he needs to talk to him so he can get the information. But Sylvie keeps trying to kill him. She keeps trying to kill him. And then, Kang keeps telling him, he's just like Kang's just sitting there. And he's watching Loki try to stop Sylvie killing him over and over and over and over again. And then Loki got to the point where Loki spent so many times trying to stop Sylvie from killing him, there was a point where Loki just turned to Kang and he was just like, all the times she tried to kill, he said, because he thought about it, he was like, out of all the times I've tried to stop this girl from killing you, he said, why do you never try to defend yourself? He's like, bro, like, you never try to run. He said, you never try to run. You never try to defend yourself. He said, you never put up a fight every time this girl tries to kill you. He's like, why are you just sitting here? And I thought the same thing. And then it got to a point where Loki, like there was one final time where Loki tried to stop her, and then Kang just froze. As a matter of fact, that's probably when he asked him. He was just like, "Yo, why do you never try to stop this chick?" And then Kang just froze time. He froze Sylvie in the middle of her pulling her sword, and then he looks at Loki and goes, "How many times have you tried to stop her from killing me now?" Because he was just like, because he said that I'm the Lord, the Overlord that lives at the end of time. He said, "You're experiencing time slipping. I know because I wrote the book on time slipping, and I know what time slipping looks like." He was like, literally, "How many times have you tried to stop her from killing me?" And then he was just like, hundreds. And then he said, "Why didn't you just freeze time if you wanted to stop her?" And he's like, "How do you not know how to freeze time?" He was like, "Bro, it doesn't matter if she kills me or not because we're going to keep going through the whole thing because of reincarnation." He said that that's how it works. He's like, he said, "Even if I die, I always rise to power to come back to this exact same moment because I'm here to protect the sacred timeline and to protect all of life and all of humanity." So he was just like, "I know you're new to the whole time slipping thing. Her killing me is like, it's not going to matter because like I'm the shit." So he said, he said, "But because you're new to this, I'm going to give you a moment to get your bearings together and try to like wrap your head around all this stuff." He said, "Keep trying to stop her for another 1,000 times. And then when you're ready to talk and have a conversation, then come holler at me." So then he let Sylvie out of the time freeze. And then when Sylvie ran to try to kill Kang, then Loki froze time. And then he goes, "What makes you think we haven't had this conversation before?" And that made me laugh because he did, because when Kang was like, "Why don't you keep trying to stop her over and over again until you get your thoughts together?" He actually did do that, but we didn't see it on camera, to the point where he learned how to control the time slipping. He learned how to freeze time. So he actually did learn some stuff in that moment. So then he said to Kang, he was like, "What makes you think this is the first time you and I have had this conversation?" And then he was like, "Oh shit." He's like, "You did learn some shit." And then, then they just had a conversation. He was just like, "Look," he said, "My job is to protect the sacred timeline." He said, "My job is to," he said, "I'm the king. I sit on the throne. I control this whole thing. And without me," he said, "without me, everything would die." So he said, "So tell me about the loom situation, because obviously that's why you're here." And then he was like, "Yeah," he said, "the temporal loom keeps expanding and it keeps exploding." And he said, "Yeah, that's going to happen because that was a failsafe that's put in to where the loom is supposed to destroy itself and only keep the timelines that are supposed to be there that are important." And then he was like, "Yes, but in the process it destroys the TVA." And he said, "But the TVA is not important." He's like, "You could rebuild that shit." What I'm saying? But he said the whole purpose was all the variants were supposed to go back to their original lives. It was supposed to be a reset. It's a failsafe to ensure that the main timeline still exists. Because he said, like, if you kill me, he said, if I'm not here to control all of this, and if you somehow break, he said, if it wasn't for that failsafe in the loom, time itself would unravel and there would be an intergalactic war that would destroy everything without me. And he was like, "I'm the only person who can prevent that because I'm the emperor, I'm the jury, I'm the king." And he's like, even her, he said that your only way to stop it, he said, is for you to let this girl kill me so things can go on the way they're supposed to go. But even because if you let her kill me, I'm gonna come back anyway. But he was like, you got a choice to make, because he said there's only one outcome and there's only one king. And then that's when Loki saw the equation that he had on the wall. And he was like, no, he's like, there's a way to redo the equation. And he was like, you can't, because he's like, bro, I sit on the throne. And then that's when Loki was like, so you're gonna have to kill. He said, you're gonna have to kill her in order to get what you want. He said, if you want to save the TVA, you're gonna have to kill her. And then he obviously he couldn't do it. He took himself back to the time period when he had pulled everybody from their personal lives. They were all in a room together, and then right before they all disappeared, he froze time again, and he was talking to Sylvie directly. And then he was just like, "Listen," he said, "I figured it out. I figured out how to control time. I figured out how to control my time slipping." And he said, "But the problem is, in order to save the TVA," and then that's when she said, "You're gonna have to kill me before I kill he who remains." And he said, "It looks that way." He's like, "Yes, that looks like that's the only outcome." And then she was just like, and then that was funny because she was just like, "Well, I hope you didn't come here for," she's like, she said, "I hope you didn't come here to ask for my blessing to kill me." And then he was like, "No," he was like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And then she was just like, "Fuck the TVA." She was just like, he was like, "No," he's like, "The TVA must survive," and blah, blah, blah. But she was just like, there's nothing that you can do. She said that there's nothing that you can do to take over in order for that to happen. And then that's when he got the brilliant idea, because even Kang said that he's the overlord, he's the guy who sits on the throne. So that's when Loki got the idea. He was like, well, shit, if that's the case, And if you're the person who sits on the throne in charge of everything, the only way I can truly save everybody and give everybody a chance to keep everything intact is that I need to be the person who sits on the throne. He said goodbye to Sylvie. He went back to the moment again when before Kang was going to go out into the temporal loom and disappear. And instead of Kang going out there with the device because he knows it's not going to work now, Loki went out there instead. And then everybody tried to stop him. He closed the door behind him. And then as Loki was making his way towards the temporal loom, he started transforming back into the Loki that we all remember with the horns and the cape and everything, fulfilling his glorious purpose. And when the temporal loom exploded and all the branches went everywhere, Loki grabbed onto all the branches. He pulled them in to only what I can describe as Loki basically went into the tree of life, like the tree of all time and existence, the tree of space-time continuum. He literally went into the heart of time. And he sat on, because there was a throne in there, because when you went into the realm of time itself, he brought all those branches in there with him. He put them together, and he took the seat on the throne of time itself. Kang is like, I sit on the throne at the end of time, so I control it all. I can see everything and I can do everything. Loki put himself on the throne at the beginning of time, or he put himself on the throne of time itself. And now he controls time. He is time, and he brought all the branches together. He he squeezed them in, he put them all together, and he literally saved all the timelines, and he saved the TVA. So now that Loki sits on the throne of time itself, it like I said, it restored everything. He saved everything, and after that, it showed the TVA where they rebuilt Miss Minutes, so now she works for them again. B13, she's on the council now that's in charge of doing things the right way in the TVA. Mobius, he got to a point where he was just like, I can't do this shit no more. Because there was even a moment where before Loki came up with the idea, he actually had a conversation with Mobius in season 1 where he asked for his advice. And Mobius even told him a story about how back in the day, him and Renslayer were sent to kill some kid that was supposed to be responsible for killing 5,000 people. And then when Mobius saw that it was a kid, he didn't have the heart to do it. And then Renslayer killed the kid, and then she got a seat at the judge's throne, on the judge's chair, but he was just like, you got to do what you got to do. But that's when he came up with the idea to sit on the throne of time itself. So, but Mobius was just like, he was like, I need a break. And he went back to the time period to what his life would have been, where he saw himself, he saw his 2 children, and he just sat there and he just watched. And then Sylvie walked up to him, and then she was like, Loki saved us all. He gave us all a chance. And then she was like, oh, don't stare at the grass too long, Mobius. And then I'm just like, I assume Sylvie went back to McDonald's. Like, she never actually said what she was going to do. Like I said, I just assumed she went back to McDonald's to go flip burgers. But like I said, B13 stayed. Ouroboros came up with a new, study guide for the TVA. They showed Kang, like the Kang version of him, Timesley. They showed him as a child coming up with ideas or whatever the case may be. They never said what happened to the Kang that was at the end of time, how Loki's decision affected him. But they did show Renslayer. And when they showed Renslayer, she just woke up in the middle of nowhere. She was just sitting in some grass, and there was a sign on the floor that said always. And I don't know if she was at the end of time or if she definitely wasn't at the beginning. And then while she was sitting, wherever it was she was sitting, this purple light showed up. I believe, I'm going to assume, I don't know, like I said, I don't know where she was. Maybe she was at the end of time, but I'm going to assume that purple light that she saw was a version of Kang that presented himself to her, and he's probably going to ask Renslayer to be his right hand, so that'll be cool for her. I mean, I still like to know what her life was before then, but they never actually showed you what that purple light was and what it had to do with Renslayer, but somebody came to pick Homegirl up, and the only person that would make sense is Kang. A version of Kang, in my opinion, picked up Renslayer and brought her onto the ship to do whatever it is that she plans on doing. And, so that was pretty much that. So Renslayer got a decent out in that whole thing. And so they put the dots on everything, cross the T's and dot the I's. And then after Mobius was just sitting there looking at what his life would have been like had he not joined the TVA, then they just cut to a scene with Loki just sitting on the throne, surrounded by all the branches of time. And his glorious purpose is being the overlord of all things time and space. That's how the series ended for season 2, and thank you for tuning in. I don't know how this is going to play into anything. I mean, if we're gonna get an Avengers movie that eventually is like the Kang Wars, where Kang tries to take over, maybe Loki being the overlord of time and space has something to do with the outcome. I would imagine. I'm gonna assume Renslayer is gonna pop up at some point by Kang's side, but it was definitely better than season one. But I'm still kind of like, what the hell just happened? Like, a lot of confusion set in, but that was the show. Share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below, and we'll continue to talk about it. Cause see, my whole thing is, I don't have a problem with how the show ended, because to see Loki finally obtain glorious purpose, the purpose of being the overlord of time, I like that. But the problem is, that means him being, because it's Marvel, him being the overlord of time is going to mean something later. What could that possibly mean later? We don't know, but that's why we're here. So share your questions. Like I said, share your questions and share your theories. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I missed something and we'll talk about it. Check out my other reviews. Again, hit the notification bell, like it or subscribe, because I got the Marvels review on the channel. Saw the Marvels, thought it was good. I got my series finale for Doom Patrol up on the channel. So please check out my Doom Patrol series finale review. Doom Patrol was the shit and I'm definitely going to miss it. And we'll keep rolling on for more superhero goodness as more things roll out for us to review. So that was it, guys. So that was my Marvel review for season 2 of Loki. As I said, so definitely check it out when you get the chance. Well, I don't even know what the next Marvel movie is after the Marvels, but this one ain't had nothing to do with time travel. We'll see what happens in the next one. We'll be back for some more Red Eyes Entertainment. Until then, hold on to your glorious purpose throughout space and or time. And until next time, sit on the throne and we're out this bitch.